Hi, you're watching Current Issues. My name is Vineet Malhotra. The demonetization of the popular 500 and 1000 rupee on November 8th by Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been appreciated and at the same time has been criticized by certain quarters of the society and the political arbitrage. While the move will ensure that the counterfeit and black money is done and dusted with, it does leave with a question. In fact, it leaves us with a lot of questions. What kind of an impact will this have on India's booming and stable economy? What will happen to the real estate sector that thrives on the cash component, and how can gold derail the plans of the government that is focused on cleaning up the financial mess in our country? Let's have a look at this report and then we get into the debate. The real estate sector that involves large amounts of undisclosed cash transactions is known for converting stock of black money into white. BSE real estate sector has taken one of the worst falls among sectoral indices. It was 14% down, with stocks like DLF crashing by 20% at 12 noon on the 9th of November. Because of huge cash involvement in the secondary market, property dealers and builders of small projects took a severe hit. Builders face a dearth of capital as they depend heavily on cash reserves to complete their projects. Most real estate transactions are a mix of check and cash, so there will be disputes and delays in possession between home buyers and developers. Just after Modi's announcement, gold sales across some cities saw a sudden spike till midnight, as people converted some of their cash into gold till midnight, while the said denominations were still legal tender. But is this the first time that India finds itself in such a predicament? The then Prime Minister Morarji Desai in 1968 had demonetized currency above denomination of rupees 100 with the same intention to flush black money out. The real estate is in a fix now, but experts believe with due course of time there will be stability in the market. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Team News World India. Okay, to shed more light on this, recent development, which is probably, if I may exaggerate, has shaken up the entire country. Let me welcome our guest on the show, Mr. KP Singh, who's a partner with the AZB law firm, and he's the former Commissioner of Customs. Sir, thank you so much for joining us in the studios. Dr. Yamini Agrawal, who's a Professor of Finance in the Institute of Finance. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. KP Singh, let's start with you. The demonetization process has, been the talk of the town. Let's not call it a town. It's been the talk of the nation for the past 2 days. It has stirred up the economics and the financial, feasibility of a lot of quarters and a lot of sectors. What kind of an impact will it make for the economy in the coming days to come, the short term and the long term?
Thank you, Vineet. Demonetization has huge impact, and we should think it from the structural point of view of the reform that is happening, and that has been well thought out as a strategy by the present government. It started from last almost 2 years, when Government of India started undertaking this structural reform. They started opening a lot of bank accounts, Jan Dhan bank now with the zero balance, where a lot of people who were so far unbanked, they have been brought under the category of banking. And subsequently, there were the reforms related to income disclosure of the domestic, the abroad money also. So it has to be seen from that point of view, where it is one of the measure which is part of the structural reform. And secondly, once it has been introduced, at one stroke of a decision, it has brought out only the white transaction into account. All the unaccounted transaction, popularly we call it black money, had disappeared. And there are certain sectors which have been impacted on a very short term measure, but ultimately it is a very prominent and strong decision, and it has got a huge impact on economic development that are going to come. Okay. And especially on the real estate, on the transaction related to gold, gems, jewelry, and even the financial market. It will have a lot of impact. In my mind, it has a lot of future potential, and it is one of the landmark decisions taken by the government that will transform India, it's definitely a game changer.
Right. Well, DLF stocks plummeted 20% and Titan Industries went down by 11%, and even some of the IT stocks, they went down by 3 to 5%. And Mr. KP Singh, since you happen to mention the real estate role in this particular crisis, I have with me Mr. Naveen M. Raheja, who's the chairman and managing director of Raheja Developers. Sir, thank you so much for talking to us. Now, real estate is one area which probably, so to say, if I can quote unquote, thrived on the cash component, which was vanquished and vanished by the current government overnight on November the 8th. How bad is this hit going to be, sir?
See, this will only be impacting the secondary market, that is the resale market, or the market which is totally disorganized, where the cash component was actually playing a role. So there definitely it is going to affect, and affect very badly also. But when it comes to the organized setup, that is the developers, larger developers who are operating in totally structured way, they are operating through their system, softwares, and there is no cash component involved. For them, as far as I know, this is going to give a better opportunity and will give a better yield and pricing also.
Okay, but sir, what about people, who were, afflicted or affected by this particular move, and they were in the middle of a transaction? They had given some money, they were going to get possession rights. What about those people who were caught on the wrong side of this particular measure? Is there any sort of a grievance addressal for them by the government?
See, the cash component does not have any record. So, cash component can neither be claimed back by anybody. If you enter into such transactions which are illegal and which are against the ethics, and where you try to save your tax and try to save upon all other government statutory payments. If you are you've gone and ahead and taken that risk, and if you are made to suffer, I don't think anybody is responsible for that.
Okay,
the person who is entering into transaction, the person who is doing it, I mean, they are responsible, and let them suffer.
So the risk and the exposure lies with the people who engaged in these illicit activities, which included, exchange of, cash. Dr. Yamini Agarwal, you understand the nuances of finance. The dynamics of this move by the current government are going to be far-reaching. We spoke of how it will affect the economy in the short run and the long run. Mr. KP Singh was, very articulate in answering that. Mr. Raheja also clarified how the real estate is going to suffer. What about the common man? How is he going to deal with this? I don't want to call it a menace because it's probably good in the long run. How is he going to deal with this particular instability?
See, for a common man only, this particular move is extremely good, because it attacks the black money, which tends to act as a highly inflationary bit in the economy, because of which the prices of whether housing, whether food grains, whether vegetables, whether any other essential items or even healthcare services are made available, are at a high price for him. It attacks corruption, because people who are corrupt are penalized by this. So thereby, somewhere or the other, people would not, people who have had corruption money, they will somewhere or the other deter from taking cash anymore. It attacks terrorism and it attacks militancy, which tends to be affecting the common man mostly. And another aspect which it attacks is the fake currency, which is then usually tends to hurt or penalize the common man if he tends to get a fake currency and he does not really have any measure to go to the bank or to any other place to get it changed, or to let us say use it in the transaction. So for a common man, it's likely to be very good, since inflation is likely to be reduced in the coming near future, because there's not likely to be more amount of money chasing too few goods, which is there. And for the common man, it is also likely to benefit in terms of the GDP growth rate in the long run, not in the short run. In the short run, the GDP growth rate is likely to come down or let's say reduce. So we are likely to see a reduced growth rate for at least 3 quarters, which is 9 months to 1 year we can expect. But for in the long run, he is likely to get his goods at a lower rate. He is likely to be able to manage his essential commodities, especially housing, which has at least 40 to 60% of the cash component which goes on, whether it is direct selling or it is a secondary selling. There has been a lot of cash component, a lot of black money going into the real estate markets.
Okay, Mr. KP Singh, your reaction to the fact that, all those people who did engage, in buying property and had some cash component involved in it. And secondly, this is not the first time India has, discontinued a particular currency. It happened during Morarji Desai's time. But how long will it take? Are there any checks and balances, do you think, that should be put into place? Because sooner than later, more cash is going to get piled up. And that again will convert into black money. It's only a matter of time. Are there going to be any checks and balances by the government that we are going to see? That will probably, prevent that from happening.
Yeah, basically once we have to see this demonetization from the point of the structural reform that has been initiated, which are long overdue by the government. And once we see that now at least the people are scared, and they will remain scared for a very long time, that if they indulge in this kind of corruption, this kind of hoarding of the black money, unaccounted money, which does not contribute for the economic growth, development of country. So this fear perhaps will be in the mind of the people who indulge in these kinds of, and then we have identified, even the government of India identified, even I was part of a lot of committee earlier, where there are certain transactions like real estate, gems and jewelry, diamond export import, even the precious metals, and a lot of hawala transaction, betting. These are all prone to generate black money. So the government effort, at one stroke, they have just turned all the unaccounted black money into a mere trash of paper. So this is a very fundamental change that has come. And secondly, the decision taken by the demonetization has to be further strengthened along with the other structural reforms that are happening. For instance, there is a RERA bill, Real Estate Regulatory Authority bill, has come. It has a lot of accountability, it has a lot of transparency. Mr. Naveen Raja has been really right that most of the real estate transactions that are happening in big cities, it does not have much cash component, and the cash component is mostly in the resale transaction, other transactions which are related to the agriculture commodity. Sometimes in the commercial transaction, purchasing, buying and selling in the commercial space, office space, there is some degree of the cash component. But as far as the residential component, cash component has really been reduced. And the third impact of the demonetization is that it is going to make even our export, import competitive. The overvaluation, undervaluation component is likely to be rectified. Whatever either import or exports that are happening, it will genuinely reflect the correct valuation. So even in the long run, the offense, the tax evasion will be reduced.
Okay.
And one more thing is, once this demonetization has been done, and we cannot rule out that the new currency note of 2000 or even the recently Secretary Economic Affairs, he announced that the government is coming out with a new 1000 currency note. It is not going to give a guarantee, surety, certainty that it will not lead to the further generation of black money. Okay. In my mind, the demonetization should be carried out regularly, maybe once in 10 years. So it will have a big impact, big threat on the people who indulge in this activity.
And from what I figure, the government probably wants you not to be cashless, Mr. Raheja, but to have less cash. But the idea was to, eradicate black money and corruption in India. But some experts have also warned, especially with the real estate sector, that, people will find a way to circumvent, the demonetization.
How? because everything is now digital, it is online, it is transparent, and there have been facilities created already. And once this money, which is now sucked up already from the market, it will take a lot of time before this money comes back. I don't think it is so easy.
Okay.
And this setback itself will be a lesson enough for all these people who were indulged in black money. For them, it will be a setback and a very strong message that it is better to act honestly, better to be part of the system, better to contribute in the taxation and in the growth of the country, and be peaceful, be peaceful and mentally comfortable, and rather put the money which you are putting in your stagnation in lockers or in hoarding. If that comes in the mainstream, it will generate more money.
Okay, Dr. Agarwal, what can we expect?
I think people will get a suitable lesson out of this.
Absolutely. That's why it's being done, sir. And Dr. Agarwal, what kind, of long-term benefits, for the common man do you see? Everybody is going to be somehow roped into the banking system, price corrections will happen, and the real estate market, which has been inflated by, the cash component, will also sooner than later come to terms with the real demand and supply of our country.
Well, actually, if you look at the present economy in terms of, let's say, the transactions has been a lot affected by the black money. We say if our global GDP contribution is about 2.5%, our black money contribution to the world economy is also about 2.5% of the contribution itself, or let's say 30% of the GDP is about the black money. And if this black money continues to be there in the economy, every commodity which is available in the market is actually being chased by this black money, and as a result, it is not really available to the common man when it should be made available to the common man at that price. Now, what happens with the black money is, supposing somebody is paying, let's say, on 100 rupees 30% tax, he has only 70 rupees to purchase the goods and items. If somebody does not pay any taxes, then he has 100 rupees. So he is willing to pay, let's say, another amount of, let's say, 80 rupees or 90 rupees for the same good. So as a result, the prices tend to really rise. And because of that inflation, that is a more severe tax or a more severe penalty for the common man. Now, an honest man continues to feel bad that he is unable to afford basic necessities like housing or, let's say, basic services, which when you actually demonetize big notes like 500 and 1000 and you actually pull them out from the market, you are trying to reward the honest man in saying that since you kept the money in the banks and you have been honest with all your transactions, you are being rewarded for what you have today in hand.
But how painful will it be for the common man? Because compliance, according to some pundits, probably will become difficult for the common man, and the Inspector Raj is probably going to return, and a lot of these authorities and authoritarian people will be breathing down the noses of the common man.
Why would it be a difficulty for a common man? A common man really does not have too much amount of money for it to be, let's say, being taken care of. Even if he is keeping a lot of cash with himself, the government has provided the avenue to actually submit it in your bank accounts, or let's say deposit it in your bank accounts, and then to take out the money on whatever currency you want. So if you've honestly earned it, they are only asking you the sources of the money. If you've honestly earned it, please put it in the banking system. Let the banking system create more deposit expansions. Let the banking system have more money. As and when the banking system will have more money, they will lend it out to you at a lower interest rate. There are more possibilities of having avenues for people to create job opportunities through, let's say, newer factories or newer companies to come up. There would be possibilities for people to take loans at a lower rate. So things would get a little more better for the common man rather than becoming difficult. Yes, I can understand the rural India does not have the banking facilities. People have not been linked to the banks despite the fact that the Jan Dhan scheme has been there. But if you see, the Prime Minister had made the post offices a good avenue for banking as well, where post offices today are available in all rural sectors, and the post offices have been made an avenue to provide for currency which may be deposited as well as currency which may be taken out by people. So if anybody really needs a help, there are help available for the honest. For the dishonest, obviously there is no help, and probably there should be no help that should be there, because the dishonest has been rewarded in this country for a very long time, and it is probably the time for the honest man to be rewarded for some amount of money that he has been keeping as a small amount of money for his living.
Absolutely. And Mr. KP Singh, the government was probably prepping up for this particular move since a long time, the Jan Dhan Yojana, and opening all those bank accounts, and being very, very aggressive towards passing of the GST. How many points would you like to give to the government in terms of, and the best part about this entire exercise was the secrecy that was maintained around it, so that the culprits could not get away with it. How many points would you like to give to the government, because they have probably checkmarked in all of those departments with flying colors?
If I have to answer in just one sentence, I'll give 9 out of 10. And I'll also give the justification. As Dr. Agarwal said, the demonetization has to be linked to the overall economic and structural changes that have been brought into our system from last 2 years. And the banking account is also linked to the insurance. It is also linked to the cashless transaction of the availability of the CNG gases, the cooking gas, and it is also linked to the other supplies. So all the leakages that were happening earlier, a lot of people without having existence, they were getting the benefit of subsidies. Now those elements, those ghost elements have been eliminated, and they will be eliminated further. In fact, there have been a data that there is a degree of saving of more than 40,000 crores, just because all this public distribution system has been linked to the banking accounts and other channels. So those kind of ghost people who are just taking the benefit of subsidies, and subsidies were going to the rich people, they were not entering to the common man. So through this measure, and with the involvement of the banking reform, the insurance linked reform, and those bank accounts are the zero balance accounts. The people, the normal people, the farmers, the poor, laborer, they are not required to maintain some kind of balance, and even that is linked to the insurance. So it is economic development, there is some element of social security, there is some element of transparency, there is some element of accountability, and when all these things are put together, and whatever the previous ills were there, like hoarding of the unaccounted money, it has been eliminated by a single stroke of decision, and it is also going to impact our future transactions. For instance, from next year the GST is being introduced, and as you rightly asked, the GST is a IT enabled transaction, where all the transactions which so far were being untaxed, they were entering in a parallel economy, they will be part of the regular economy. So automatically even this reform has to be seen from the future introduction of GST, where the transparency will be there, people will be paying for what they are getting, and even the quality will be ensured, and even the genuine transaction will be there. So the people will not be cheated, and those people like dealers, the small dealers existing in some remote corner of a state, they will be brought under tax nets. And even GST transaction is it will almost totally, I am not saying 100%, but to a large extent it will eliminate the cascading effect.
Absolutely.
Once these are all seen from the reform point of view, India is bound to become economic superpowers, and the kind of economic growth it has attained, and coupled with these reforms, I am sure that India is going to achieve at least 8 to 9% annual growth next year. And considering one more very important factor, the global average of cash to GDP ratio is around 4%, whereas in India it was almost 14%. So the cash economy generates not only the black money, but it also generates the threat of burglary, robbery, dacoity, murder, a lot of social insecurities by By this single decision, I think a lot of social economic ills and evils will be eliminated.
Okay, we don't have much time left. Mr. Raheja, coming back to you for probably, your closing remarks. This move has been appreciated from mostly all corners of our society and the country. The real estate market, has seen some volatile days in the past. What kind of a boon do you see this move to be for the real estate market? In the next 5 to 10 years, what kind of prospects, what kind of a boom can we expect in the real estate market?
Number one, that there will be customer confidence because of RERA coming, because of this move of elimination of black money, and then single window system clearance mechanism is also being put in place. GST is coming. So with all these things together, and this Jan Dhan Yojana wherein the developer can make, contractors can make payments in the accounts of the workers also directly. With all these things working together since last 2 years, I look at real estate as a very, very respectable and professional and transparent business coming forward. And I think that confidence and then that kind of business approach will definitely give much, much better business opportunity, much, much better professionalism, much, much better, I think, confidence of the people and more appreciation and better returns.
Okay, so full marks to the government for initiating these moves. There will be, of course, some short-term hassles, which the citizens will definitely forget in the long run, because it's going to be beneficial and conducive for the economy as well as, day-to-day activities of the common man of India. On this note, I'd like to thank our guests, Mr. Raheja, Mr. KP Singh and Dr. Agarwal. Thank you so much for being on Current Issues. That is all we have. We'll see you tomorrow. Keep watching News World India. Thank you.